Hello and welcome to CIO Leadership Live New Zealand. I'm Kathy O'Sullivan, Editor-in-Chief for CIO in Asia Pacific. And today I'm thrilled to be chatting to Miles Fordyce. Miles is the Chief Digital and Innovation Officer at the Real Estate Institute of New Zealand, otherwise well known here in New Zealand as RIANZ. So prior to joining RIANZ, Miles was Head of Data and Practice Management at insurance giant Tower. He's also been Head of Operations and Enterprise Services at Foodstuffs North Island and held senior positions at Auckland Transport and New Zealand Post. All very well-known Kiwi organizations. Sure, Miles, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Kathy.
Great to have you. And so, as I said there in the bio, lots of experience in transformation and you've been at RIANZ now for a couple of years. So can you tell us a bit more about your role there and what your team does?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. I think, and I'll just slightly correct you. It's RIANZ. I made the same mistake when I first walked in the door. I swore it was this name, but if I just refer to it as RIANZ, it just makes the conversation flow so much better. Listen, Now, RIANZ is an organisation which has been around for, I think, close on 100 years. It's getting pretty old, and where we have driven our roots from, working with the real estate industry for an awfully long time. A lot of people have seen the brand, so they are very familiar with the brand, but probably don't have a good appreciation for what the organisation does and how we sort of fit in. So we're a membership-based organisation. We've got about 17,500 members, and it's really our role to empower our members with resources, data, tools, forward-thinking commentary. We offer advisory services and work closely with government and other regulatory bodies around legislation or regulation that might be coming through. We offer training and events to the industry, and really we sort of help connect the industry together, provide knowledge, insights, resources, data. So we're really sort of that central body that brings the real estate industry together. So it's a pretty interesting times, as most people will know. Real estate is never a dull moment, and everyone follows it with interest.
Absolutely. It's certainly a passion of a lot of Kiwis, and especially a lot of people here in Auckland. Now, as I said earlier, you've worked in a number of roles for a lot of very well-known Kiwi organizations who have all gone through their own transformation. But the word transformation is thrown around, it's as if it's just a given. It's happening everywhere all the time. But in reality, it's quite hard. It's not easy to do. So can you talk us through your approach to transformation during your career?
Sure. Look, the word transformation, as you said, is it's thrown around a lot. And I think the word transformation has actually changed through the technology decades. Transformation back in the early 90s, late 90s through to 2000s has meant different things as time has gone on. And I think my approach has been that the transformation is never easy. It's a journey. It's certainly been part of the way I've looked at my own career, which has had twists and turns all the way through. As I sort of developed a need to work with the business, work with the technical teams, and understand just how transformation can actually assist businesses get to a certain point. And I think back in the early days, transformation was very focused around just a major system implementation, and they attached the word transformation to that. Whereas nowadays, transformation takes on such a far more broader context than just the technical element. Particularly in my own career, if I just try to associate it back to what I've done, I've moved from banking, consulting, airlines, education, logistics, postal services, transportation. Like there's lots of different areas, and I think each of those different sort of market segments has got unique challenges associated with it. But underpinning all of that really has been a desire for improvement and for strategy to be strongly connected back to technology and how technology can support that being driven forward. I think just in my own career, looking at the different roles I've also played, it has helped me gain a good level of understanding. So whether it be from being a developer, program manager, I've done data centers, networks, I've done risk, security, architecture, strategy. Having that experience across all the different facets of technology has given me a really good ability to understand the challenges that each of those functions play in helping the organization move forward. I think it's probably been more evolution than revolution when it comes to looking at the way transformation really does make a difference and the things that need to be done at each of the stages of the journey. I think, from attaching it to the outcomes, the focus, like I said earlier, was nowadays is far more around linking the technology supporting business transformation. And I think what I've seen in the last 5 years, at least, has been a big focus around the connection far more strongly to digital being an enabler rather than digital leading the journey around transformation.
Absolutely. So what does transformation mean for your organization? How is your digitization program tracking at Rianz?
You'll get there. Look, I think transformation for Rianz really has been a big thing for them over the last couple of years. When I joined, we had a number of legacy systems that needed to be replaced. Our business processes were, whilst working, certainly had an opportunity to have an improvement. Our website was terrible. You couldn't find anything. It was difficult to get information. It was difficult to connect. And being a membership-based organization, we have to pride ourselves on that sort of member engagement, member experience, and making it easy for people. So our transformation journey really has been to do a complete replacement of a number of key components that underpin our business, whether it be a brand new website, a brand new member management system, a brand new CRM, a brand new learning management system, a brand new events management system, the ability for us to connect and engage through single sign-on through to our external applications. All of these things we undertook and completed within about 7 months. So transformation for us has been not only just tweaking some of the components, it really has been a fundamental change of pretty much every single technology, every single business process, at the same time as trying to keep our lights on and run the business. So it's been a hell of a journey for transformation for Rianz. We're not finished yet either. I mean, I know that we'll probably get on to some of the things around transformation in a little bit more detail later, but for us, the first stage of transformation, which has been to get the systems and get the processes, get the business onto the new platform is I guess in some respects the easy bit. Now the hard bit starts. I often describe it to the team as having a Ferrari parked in the garage or something like that. Now you've got the keys. Now you need to learn how to drive it. And you have to drive it differently. It doesn't drive the same way as what you've always done. So there will be changes in the way that we have to do things. There'll be changes in the way our members engage. There'll be changes in the way we communicate and engage across the industry. So there's so much potential that is locked in that space. And now as we go forward, really unlock that potential and really develop new capabilities for the team. A brand new marketing automation tooling set across the top of it also helps us transform the way that we've traditionally engaged and focus now more on sort of, I guess, customer journey, customer experience as a state of things as they flow through. So if you think of it maybe around our membership renewal process, for example, now that we can sort of understand who our market segment is that we want to target, we can send them communications and keep them regularly engaged through that process. And even after they've completed, we still have the ability to execute a digital journey for them after that process as well. So, digital transformation for Rianz has been a big thing for the organization and still continues to be. The good thing is, like I said, is that we've done the easy bit, which is the technology. The hard bit is around the people change, the process change and embedding that into our organization for the next 6 to 12 months, and then we'll be humming.
So just on that, it can be hard to change. You've mentioned you're changing quite a lot of systems and processes there in your organizations. So how do you deal with those challenges or roadblocks when they come out? Can they ever be avoided or mitigated? And what kind of process do you put in place to deal with those?
I think every organization is so different. It's hard to have a defined list and say, right, here's what works for us, and therefore here's what's going to work going forward. I think the things which that we found in Ryan's in particular were things that were quite unique to the organization because of its size, because of its scale, and just the impact. So I think the things that you can avoid or mitigate is really get an appreciation for the impact it's going to have on the organization. It is never about the tech. It is always about the people change and managing expectations of that change throughout not only the beginning of the project or the program, but as you go through, and certainly engaging stakeholders during the change. One of the things that we had, and many organizations probably had last year and the year before that and the year before that, was the change of people in the team. People come and go. And when you have stakeholders also coming and going in that mix, and you're doing a digital transformation program, and they are stakeholders that are heavily connected to the program, you almost have to go back to first base again with them and bring the new person in on the journey about that change, particularly if you've got senior stakeholders that have moved during the change. I think for us, this was never about, continuous improvement or just improving one part of our business. I think with such a large scale of transformation for Ryan's, we had to have executive support, we had to have board support all the way through. And one of the key things for me is because of the size of change and the scale, we really had to have the board understand the why. It's easy for some organizations for digital to drive through a digital transformation under the guise of digital transformation. But I think digital transformation is really just an enabler of business change. And therefore, with business change comes the need for very strong board support and very strong board understanding of the outcomes and making sure that the program delivers to those outcomes. So it's just making sure that you've got that support, making sure that there are things that you're doing along the way that keep your stakeholders engaged. I think are probably key things I would be saying to anyone around digital transformation or making big change through organizations.
Now, Miles, you mentioned earlier that you see transformation as, an evolution, not a revolution, and it's just an ongoing part of what we do. So how do you manage that then from a change fatigue point of view? If you're constantly changing things, how do you keep people both within your team and the wider organization engaged and avoid that kind of just, oh no, another process, another change?
Yeah, I think you have to stop. You have to stop, pause, understand where you're at before you do the next charge. I guess it's probably like climbing a mountain in many respects. You can't climb it all in one go, and don't ever try and do it in one go. So with us now, as a really good example, we've done our major piece of digital transformation. We've got the tooling there. Before we go on to doing more and more and more, we need to stop, take stock of where we're at, how are people feeling, how's the team feeling. We've got a bunch of things that we weren't doing because we were focusing on the transformation. So we need to get back just to take down the things that we've had in our backlog, just work through those, and then we'll take a methodical step into the next pieces. I think people over the last couple of years looking at well-being is particularly important, and people I think feel stress and feel the pressure of change a lot more than perhaps what they used to. So I'm taking a very considered approach around just making sure the team take stock, have time to have a breath, take a breather, and then we'll sort of move into the next pieces fairly soon. But just understanding that people need break as much as anyone else. And need to celebrate it too. I think, with any transformation, being able to sort of segment it into pieces, take a break, celebrate, and then we'll sort of work out the next stages. We've got a very good plan. We've got a very good understanding about where we need to go, and it's getting a fine balance. In fact, one of the things I did find is pushing the entire journey out. You need to be careful about how much you are talking about the longer journey, when people are actually focused on the stuff here and now. And so therefore talking too much about what's coming next adds on to the burden of people going, oh my God, I'm busy doing this, and now he wants me to think about this and this and this. It's like, okay, so that's one of my learnings. I'll talk about that a little bit later on as well, is just trying to focus around the team and what they need to focus on, and being careful about it.
Now, it seems a day doesn't go by at the moment without hearing about ChatGPT or DALL-E or some form of AI. What role do you see for AI? Is it something that you see value for in your organization?
A little bit in the organization, but I think for the industry as a whole, it's got enormous value. So for being a membership-based organization, there are things that we can do on the immediate horizon that there is going to be used for AI, whether it be looking at more things around self-service, and that's sort of just the initial engagement before you perhaps engage with a human around just questions and answers and those sorts of general things. And those sort of chatbot variants are probably going to get a lot smarter in the near future, and certainly there's value in some of that for us. And some of the systems that we have, so we have AI, machine learning capability around house prices and the predictability of where a house may sell for. We've got some very smart tools and systems in around that. And certainly just as typical business process, I mean, the great thing is it has so many great answers that it can save a lot of time, particularly when you need a framework for something, or you're looking for I guess the way you might approach something. Just being able to throw a question into ChatGPT and get a very good framework as a starting point saves everyone a huge amount of time and effort just to get that off the line. I think longer term around the industry as a whole, I think AI is going to become a lot more prevalent in as human interaction to suggesting properties that may be of value to someone. There might be things around smart contracts and interpreting contracts and the legal pieces that take a contract and a document through the process. So there's some very interesting opportunities around AI that are going to come through. The ChatGPT, so the imagery side of things, not so much around the I guess just the straight text response. There's some very interesting things that are going to pop up around perhaps being able to suggest the type of property that you like, and for it to generate some images around the sorts of things that you like, and therefore be able to feed that back into a real estate process to either build from scratch or to look at certain characteristics of a property that you might be able to put forward to a real estate agent. So there's some really interesting stuff. It's such a fascinating area. Everyone's sort of loving it and hating it at the same time because a lot of people just roll their eyes at it and go, oh my God, another ChatGPT, someone. But it's kind of interesting. It's evolving. And as tech people, we are geeks deep down. So we love it, but we are cautious of just how it's going to be used. But certainly potential, absolutely. It's got you might be able to stop it. So you need to work out how to embrace it.
Absolutely. It's certainly a fascinating space.
Yeah.
So then, as Chief Digital and Innovation Officer at Ryan, in what ways do you, I guess, influence the organization and your peers, both on the leadership team and on the board?
Yeah. Okay. I think being part of the conversation, I think on an executive team, one of your primary objectives is to make sure everyone's aligned. And that's not about just, here's my area, technology really is, I guess, one of the rare touch points in an organization that you see all aspects of a business because you're supporting or enabling all the different parts. And I think it's a privileged position to be in, that you have the ability to perhaps collaborate a lot more. You've also got the ability to disappoint a lot more too when people are expecting you to support their own strategies. So I think initially be part of the conversation. You need to listen and guide at the same time. I think when technology is an enabler, but it also needs to be a leader in its own respective area. So having insights as to where technology could help or could enable to bring that back to the conversation is really key. Influencing in that space also comes back to, I think, in order to influence, I think you need to demonstrate trust, and confidence, and probably outcome. So you don't get to influence just by coming in and saying this is the way we're going. I think getting that trust and confidence in the people that you're trying to influence is key. I had, I guess, a big challenge early on in influencing quite a strategic outcome that required us to work with the board around changing a particular technology direction, where we were at a bit of a crossroads. And so just being clear up front, keeping it simple, don't talk tech, just playing it straight is pretty much how you get to influence, is what I found in time. And just being supportive of organizational goals, rather than just driving your own technical agenda is key.
Now, technology has really been brought into sharp focus, over the years, but particularly during the pandemic, as many organizations, reshaped the way their workforces operated. Do you think the role of the CIO has changed since the pandemic? And if so, how?
I don't know if the role of CIO has changed, but I think the role of leadership has changed, which is not just about the CIO, but I think it's around, as leaders, what everyone has found is this significant change in organizational culture, attendance as being all in one space at one time, multiple teams that are on-site, off-site. So our challenges as a CIO sort of fall into the leadership piece as well, which is how do you enable a team to be connected, to be engaged across each of the different across the different departments? How do you connect? And it's become a lot harder, I think, to get the team aligned to organizational strategy, the strategy of the technical team, the digital execution. It's a lot harder. When everyone was working from home, we had, an allowance where you could be a little bit slower, more deliberate about it. But coming back, there's a big focus now around execution and kickstarting your strategy again. So we've got a pent-up demand. You've got a team that you're struggling to work out how leadership now works in a new paradigm of working. So I think it's changed definitely around the leadership piece more than just the CIO piece.
So what would you say then are some of those kind of key attributes of a modern day CIO when it comes to that leadership piece?
I think it's quite a big focus around empathy and culture. That's certainly come through, that you now need to be more empathetic. You need to be focusing on culture, which feeds into retention, employee engagement. Everyone knows that you need to hang on to the people that you've got. So therefore, you have to focus on those things. Pragmatism is probably another one I'd probably say. To be successful, you need to be pragmatic. You need, 80%. I always have 80% is good enough for most of the time. Technology and digital folk often pride themselves on perfection. But I think being pragmatic about what you can actually achieve, and probably driving to outcomes. I think we've probably been a little bit lax over previous years where we've been able to sort of accommodate pace of change being slowed up as a result of working from home and those sorts of things. But now they're all back probably for the last 6 months, if not sort of 7-8 months, starting to see a lot more focus around driving for outcome. And I think that's a really key attribute to have, is drive for those outcomes, be pragmatic, and show empathy and drive your culture at the same time. If you can do all of those, you're doing really well.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the culture piece then, what does that look like for you with your team? How do you inspire them and help them thrive in their roles and make sure that they feel really connected to the organization?
Yeah. Okay. I think just in the team that I've got, it's certainly promoting from within is a key one, and giving people new challenges. It's easy for people to just stay within a role and that's all they do. And it's easy for some people just to get down and just keep doing what they've done every day. And I think giving people the ability to do different things and challenge the team on new ideas. I've often been one for getting them thinking more about what they do and where it fits into the organization's vision and purpose, and really talking about the why, and why do you show up every day? What is what you're doing? How does it connect to the organizational strategy? Get them more involved in that connection to the organization has been a key one for us as well. And I think we're small enough as an organization to really celebrate a number of things that some other larger organizations can't do. We've got a big focus around celebrating diversity, personal milestones, caring about the team, and bringing in a really good feel about belonging to the organization and being part of not only the digital team, but also part of the whole organization.
So you mentioned there diversity, and obviously it's definitely a key part of high-performing teams. We've seen many studies that have shown that. How do you get more diversity into your team, whether that be diverse ways of thinking, diversity in terms of gender or age or ethnicity? How do you get more people into IT teams to better reflect the country that we live in?
It's a really interesting question, this one. I was trying to work out whether or not, is there a diversity problem, or do we just need to wait a little while? Because I think, is it a generational thing that if I look at the university grads today and the makeup of a lot of the younger people in the teams coming through, that there's a huge amount of diversity starting to come through where traditionally it wasn't. So, that being obviously gender and cultural diversity, it's literally a combination of the United Nations in most technology teams these days. I think there's still a gender divide that tends to sort of follow functional lines. And maybe that will change over time, but I think at least in my experience, there seems to be more of one particular gender around some parts of technology sort of support and implementation than others. So if you look at your classic BA, developer, QA, whether it be program manager, product owner, there seems to historically have been a gender divide. Hopefully that's changing as people come through. I think the things we can do literally is just give people the opportunity is one thing. So, bias is unfortunately still prevalent in the organisations across New Zealand. But I think with such a big focus on it over the last 5 years, it's certainly making huge inroads around that type of makeup of a team. Bringing people, diversity of thought is kind of an interesting one. And in technology, folk may only look within themselves to come up with ideas. And I think making sure that you involve other people from within the organization itself, even though they may not be technology back or have a technology background, having just that diversity of thoughts are really important. New ways of thinking, old ways of thinking are really important as well, which is things don't work a certain way because of X. So how do you actually start thinking about other aspects of how the organization has traditionally delivered services? How's it going to work in the future? So it's a really interesting area, but hopefully it's improving. I like to think my team pretty much ticks almost all the boxes across the board for everything in that space, and that's something that I can be a role model in. Is that's the way I want my team to be, and then drive that forward into future roles that I have as well.
Great to hear. So Miles, when you reflect back on your own career, then are there any kind of mistakes or things when you look back on them, even though they might be a bit uncomfortable, you really learned from them and they really helped shape you as a leader?
Yeah, I think biggest mistakes. I think in technology that you are always learning in any role, and I think being in leadership roles, you still make mistakes. We're all human, and as long as you learn from those, that's really important. I think for me, just one of the mistakes I've probably made is wanting to go faster than the team can execute. And that translates into a whole bunch of outcomes that you don't expect. When you are driven towards an outcome, you can get too focused on the pace of change, and you lose focus around that change management piece for the team. So in order to sort of try and work through that, it's really understanding what the team have on their plate already, and making sure that you are giving the team the next line to get to without asking them to go faster than they can actually execute, because you'll end up either breaking the team and your quality can suffer as a result of that. But I think that's probably one of the biggest learnings I've been able to have, is just pacing yourself and pacing the execution, and making sure that you are not necessarily slow and steady wins the race. I don't think that's quite what I'm suggesting, but certainly making sure that you are pushing the team just right, and getting that right balance.
So what advice then would you give to someone who is aspiring to be a CIO or a chief digital officer or hold a senior IT leadership role?
I think probably two things. One is connect with senior leaders. There's a lot of us out there, and many of us want to share our experiences and mentor others. So if I was an aspiring IT leader, find someone in the industry that's not in your organization. There's a number of senior leaders out there that would love to share their experiences and mentor others. So that would be my first advice. And there's something which I didn't do. And hindsight from all those years ago is something which is going, well, if only technology would have enabled me to do that better, first of all. But secondly, if I'd known that, I would have perhaps made more of an effort in that connection piece in my early career. So that would be the one thing. And also probably the second one is don't settle for the status quo. Challenge the norm. Continuously drive to be the best you can be. That's probably, if you sit still, I guarantee you'll be still sitting still in 36 months, 4 years time. So keep pushing yourself.
Now, finally, it's been a rough start to 2023 and there's a lot more months left in the year. So what's important to you as we head into the rest of 2023?
Just getting to the end of the year would be good. But aside from that, I think within the organization itself, just a big focus again, just around team culture. Team culture is absolutely important for us and what we need to achieve. Delivery. So we've got some big things coming up, and that requires some significant stakeholder management. So focus around delivery, team culture, and just making sure we're doing the right thing for the organization. Prioritization is always something that we have to balance, and there's going to be some things that we want to do which just literally don't have capacity for. So making those right choices, and again, delivering what's the right thing for the organization. Those are probably very similar for most people, I would imagine. But given the year that we've come off, 2022, the expectation that 2023 was going to be a big year for everyone. Like you said, we've started off with a bit of an interesting start. And so the focus for the next sort of next 8 months is going to be quite significant. And I think making sure that you protect your team in the execution and just pacing the change that can be absorbed, I think is going to be a really interesting balance for us just to work through, and probably for many others as well.
Indeed. Miles Fordyce, Chief Digital and Innovation Officer. Ryan, thank you so much for your time today.
That's all right. Pleasure. Thanks, Kathy.